Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Very Connected January support group. And tonight we're being joined by Corby Ryan Jackson. And Corby, say hi.
Everyone. How's it going?
We're so fortunate to have you back. Corby kind of goes by Ryan. I think you go by both, but I'm gonna be calling you Ryan.
That's fine.
And
And the only reason people call me Ryan is because I have people struggle saying Corby, so that is the only
oh,
reason why. I was like,
we
yeah,
can go
let's.
either way. Um, Yeah, tonight we're talking about mindful eating and mental flexibility. And I'm really interested in knowing where this conversation is going to lead because you're going to be teaching us something called ACT to transform the relationship with food. And I'm going to be talking about emotional eating, aligning with eating habits and values. And we're also going to be talking about embracing that discomfort that you have whenever you have these feelings that come up. And so, I'm going to do a brief introduction. While I'm doing that, all of you who are here on our live call, please feel free to introduce yourselves. There's a chat feature. Say hello. Let us know where you're from, where you're joining from, what state. If you're pre-op, if you're post-op, anything special you want to share about yourselves, because that's why we're here. This is all for you guys. It's all about your own weight loss journey. So, Corby Ryan has struggled with obesity through his entire life. And at the age of 13, he weighed 350 pounds. And by the time he was 29, he was up to 835. So, I think you made a big decision on October 12th of 2020, weighing in at 665. So, you had lost some weight at that time.
Yeah.
And
So I definitely lost some weight. And that was just October 2019. I just got sick and tired of going in and out the hospital. So I was like, I'm gonna start walking. And that's kind of where my weight loss journey began. And then I had bariatric RNY surgery on October 2020. Yeah, October in 2020. Yes.
yes, and you're a tall guy though too. You're 6 foot
Yes.
8.
Yes.
So I mean that plays a part too. And I think it's so interesting because throughout this you you've moved closer to being able to use your journey to help other people too. So in this you became a therapist. When did that happen? And tell us about that little part of your journey too as well.
So I was actually doing the clinical hours to become a licensed therapist at that time. I was working in an inpatient rehab, and that's when I had that conversation with my boss that kind of clicked. He was like, he told me something very profound, and it hit me. He was like, uh, professionally, you can go far, right? You can do anything you want because you're a very intelligent guy. And I really appreciated it because it was coming from a guy that I've known for about 4 years at this time. But he said, personally, your health is going to affect your professional life. And he said, how many people are going to want to do therapy with you with an oxygen tank and you're trying to help them better their life? And they say, you should help yourself. And it was a very like, okay, you're right. And I remember going home like in the car crying about that because no one put it that way. Like I always thought my success of being able to say I have intelligence, that I'm doing this or that defined me. In reality, I'm more than just being a therapist. I'm human. So
I mean, that is heartbreaking. It's kind of like it's kind of those wake up calls that we all get. And sometimes and you probably it seems like you have a personality too. You want to help other people and you want to be there for other people. And sometimes it's hard to put ourselves first and be that person that we really strive to take the time and attention to do those things that we need to do. And I think we're all guilty of that. I know this last year for me, that's been something like trying to put myself first. And it's almost like there's a little bit of a struggle there because you think, why should I be doing that? Like, doesn't seem right. But I'm sure a
yeah,
lot of people on this call can resonate with that.
oh yeah, for sure. It's a guilt feeling. You guilt trip yourself for saying that I have to help others before me.
Yeah. So is there anything you can tell us more about your journey? And I know with the whole series of things that you went through, and now you're actually have joined forces with some other guys because you're kind of a force out there um, advocating for males to have bariatric surgery too, because there's not, I mean, females is it's there's a lot of females out there that have done the weight loss surgery, but males, you just, and not only that there's not a lot of males, but also not a lot of males that have a voice out in the community that are willing to talk about their experiences. So tell us about that.
Oh yeah, the bariatric community for men only make up 20%, right? 20% of men get it. And men's journey it comes with the physical looking better and building the confidence, but it becomes also the vulnerability aspect. There's aspects of like, I wasn't capable of doing this, and I was telling myself I will never be capable of doing this. And because now I can do it, what do I do now? Who am I now? And there's this big identity crisis that tends to happen with men trying to figure out who am I now outside of my identity of being a big guy. I struggled with that, right? I was like, okay, if I'm going to be the biggest guy in the room, let me be the biggest guy in the room. And now that I am losing this weight, granted, I am still a big guy, it's this element of, okay, my size isn't defining who I am, but it's my character. It's my ability to show up for other people. It's my ability to show people that even at my size, I can do things that most people say I couldn't.
Yeah. It's kind of it's one of those things when we look at what we can offer, you know, regardless. And I think sometimes too we do put ourselves in a box. I can remember at one of my last jobs, a role that I had had for so long, you know, we define ourselves and a lot of times in what we're doing, find yourselves as a therapist, as for me, it was a nurse. And I had done specific types of nursing. So I kind of boxed myself even in anymore and was scared to reach outside of that. And sometimes it's hard to see that unless we start venturing out. And, you know, it could be like deep down, what is it that you really want? For me, I knew my last role, I needed something new because I needed to be able to create something new. And I love being able to empower people. And although my last role, it was a bariatric coordinator, was incredible being able to do that, I knew that it was time to move on. And there's always better things waiting on the other side of the road. You know, things that you can connect with. Although you kind of like grow into one job and then you kind of grow out of it. And it's just kind of
Hmm.
like what you're saying too is in life our roles change and not being defined by that role is a big piece.
Yeah, we always have the ability to rewrite our story. And the element about that is a lot of people find themselves putting periods at the end of their story and saying, this is it, this is who I am. And a lot of people, what I've seen is they find themselves boxed in not being able to live a fulfilled life based on the fears of starting over. I I think in everyone's journey, it's a start over, and it's not a start over in just the aspect of you losing weight and you're getting healthier. It's to start over, and why did I need that to begin with? I started questioning myself, like, did I really need to have me, two large pizzas? Like, was there a necessity for me to have this 2 liter? Was there a necessity for me to fill the void of loneliness with the food that I had so I can feel a warm hug? Like there were these contemplating aspects, like what relationship was I trying to build with food that I can't build with humans or people? Like just it becomes a very expansive piece that I guess we grow into over time.
Oh, just taking all that in. There's so many great comments here too. I think oh, I'm just reading over them. There's people from all over here. We have um I just want to say hello to everybody. We have Missouri, we have Omaha, Nebraska, we have South Carolina, we have Oregon, we have Canada, we have Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, I know I'm missing some here. We have Pennsylvania, Massachusetts. Um, I also want to say one of these comments here kind of sticks out. It says, as a nurse, I felt like a hypocrite being overweight before surgery. And then another person says, I was recently told my health can affect my career as well. Definitely hit home. So there's some other people that are relating to that. And then Amber says, yep, I've always been the fat, funny friend. I don't know how to be different. And we tell these stories to ourselves, like we tell ourselves who we think we are, but
Mhm.
maybe it's time if you could just repeat what is it that you want to be new, you know, I know for myself after COVID, I started having like all these memory issues, and I think a lot of other people had those too. And here recently, I've been taking some classes on. It's on Mind Valley. It's a fun little place where you can take all kinds of classes to in better yourself, personal development. And I'm taking some on memory right now. And it's interesting because a lot of what you tell yourself, you're going to believe. And if you believe you don't have a good memory, you're not going to have one. So it's about repeating that to yourself. You know what? I have a super memory. And so what I'm going to say to you, Amber, is can you rewrite that story to be the funny friend instead of the fat funny friend? Or,
Mhm.
do you we get caught up in these titles for ourselves.
Yeah, and I think the titles, again, part of the titles is people give it to us and then we live into them or grow into them. And then there's times where we feel that this title made me feel confident, and I don't know what confidence looks like in any other title, right? Like I was this thing, I was this person, but then expanding that is, well, if I try something different, would people still like me? Loving myself over the fear of needing to be belonged.
Yeah. She said, I'm working on that. So it also, Keisha says, I'm trying to tell myself it's okay to my healthy to be healthy and slimmer. Part of me is afraid. I don't know what it feels like. And that's true. We kind of get this picture of ourselves in our minds. And when we start seeing ourselves in different ways, we're like, who is that person? But, deep down, you've always been the same person. I like look back whenever I weighed my heaviest weight and I think, really, I was still the same person. It wasn't like, I mean, I changed in some different ways over the time, personal development and just the way I thought about things. But deep down, you're at a soul level, you're the same person.
Hmm.
Um, Jessica says, my weight has been affecting my dating life. My goal in life is to find someone who can encourage me and have kids and learn what love is.
Hmm. I respect that. I believe in that element, Jessica. You got to then show yourself in this process. What do you love about what you do for yourself that you want someone who's coming into your life to share that with? Because there becomes an element that you can love everything someone's doing for you, but can you be in love with the fact that you had the opportunity of teaching someone how to love you from the lens of what you want them to love you by, not but by what they're able to do. I remember I felt like I had this epiphany the other day. It was the difference between happiness and love. And I found myself doing things, saying that I'm doing it out of love, but just to make people happy, and realizing that it isn't love that I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I want them to feel something that maybe I'm missing, in hopes that in return they give it back, right? It's like, hey, I give you this gift, right? But but real love is I give a person a gift knowing that I want them to have it and not needing the return as a necessity, right? But having them choose to show up loving me because they want to give me a gift too. They want to share gifts with each other.
There's a ton more comments coming in. Um, How about we take one more and then we jump into your presentation? I'll let you
Okay.
pick, Ryan, whichever
Um,
one you want to pick.
I have lost over 85% of my beginning weight, now struggling with men noticing me and making inappropriate comments. How do I deal with that? Okay. So when it comes to the comments that you're possibly getting, we just actually had a live yesterday with BariMale Experience, and we had women on the panel expressing to guys like how they will want them to talk to them. So you have to then maybe ask yourself, like, do I want to take in comments from people who are genuinely saying, I see your progress, I see what you're doing, great job, or do you want to set a boundary and let them know how you feel about what they're saying? I think it's the courage to speak up of how you feel and letting them know that, hey, I don't appreciate that compliment, that comment allows them to know this is your hard boundary. Don't cross this. Right? Yes, but always respond by thank you. That boundary, thank you. Okay. So do you want me to get into the presentation? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. No, I can hear you. I was just reading all the comments too. I say we jump into that. Guys, keep commenting, and if there is also a little Q&A box at the bottom if you're on the live event. And sometimes that's easy to decipher questions too as we go through because the chat gets really busy with this many people on the event. So feel free to use that as well. And Ryan's going to be sharing his screen, and we'll pause periodically if that's okay, Ryan, and just kind of see if there's anything that you want to answer in between, or if you want to wait. Would you like to wait till end for comments,
No,
or
we can pause in between. I can't see the comments, but we can pause in
okay,
between.
okay,
So, can you see my screen now?
yes,
Okay. So this is mindful eating and mental flexibility using ACT to transform your relationship with food. Uh, ACT is acceptance commitment therapy for mindful eating and mental flexibility in bariatric community. We'll explore how ACT can transform your relationship with food and empower you to reach your goals. Why ACT therapy? I'm just going to use the acronym of ACT instead of keep saying ACT, acceptance commitment therapy. Aligns with values. ACT helps us align our actions with our core values, allowing us to make choices that truly matter to us rather than being driven by craving or fear. Think about it this way. You'll start seeing that if I have a core value of what I desire and what I want in life, I won't neglect my values over the craving of saying I deserve to eat this or what this food is going to make me feel like. Because we'll realize that that might compromise the values I have. I think and if we look at it in the system that we set ourselves up for when it comes to weight gain, is the aspect of we compromise our values for the craving of what food will give us, right? Or the fear, and the fear could be the exercise piece, or the fear of, oh man, this is going to take so much to do this, so I don't want to do this. The fear of the change. But yet, on the opposite end or the other side of the wall, our values are, I do want to change. I do want to lose this weight. I do want a healthier life. And just knowing how to keep on rooting your values over these fears or cravings that you have. Another aspect is mindful acceptance. It promotes mindfulness and acceptance of uncomfortable thoughts and feelings, allowing us to acknowledge them without letting them control our behavior. It's just giving space between the idea of a thought versus a fact. So many times we have thoughts that we believe are facts, right? We even said that just now. I've always saw myself as the fat, funny friend, right? An element is what became facts with that? Why did the word fat have to be there before the idea of funny? Right? Like and us making this element a reality, it makes it a struggle for us to change the mentality of saying I don't have to necessarily be the thing that I'm really uncomfortable with. Our next aspect is present moment focus. ACT encourage us to live in the present moment, reducing the tendencies to dwell on past struggles or worry about future outcomes. There's an element of just being present versus the element of looking too far in the future. Because I know for me, I couldn't look at the fact of I want to lose 100 pounds and actually achieve it. I had to actually make it a small measurable aspect of what am I doing in my weight loss or in my health to get to a point where I can lose 100 pounds versus I just want to lose 100 pounds because what ends up happening is you'll go on 6 weeks of losing weight, then you hit a stall, and now you're like, what happened? I've been consistent, my focus has been on. And this element is your body might be adjusting. So giving you an opportunity to live in either that fear, which then makes you say, well, I don't want to do anything, or feeding a craving saying, because I am fearful of the fact of that I'm stuck, I might as well have a cookie, or I might as well have this ice cream, or I might as well eat something that then challenges my core value. I know that was a mouthful to say. But ACT is broken down into 6 different principles. One of the first very principle is acceptance, embracing without judgment. Acceptance means acknowledging thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations without labeling them as good or bad. Um, I know a lot of times we have intrusive thoughts or feelings at times where we're like, this is a bad thought or this is a good thought. And we choose to label them at either one. Reality is it's just a thought. It isn't necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just you had it. The connection when it comes to the bariatric aspect is, for example, you may still crave comfort food. Acceptance doesn't mean giving in. It means acknowledging the craving without letting it control your action. Right? I'll give you guys a perfect example. I used to eat a cereal all the time. I used to eat like a box of cereal a day. I would have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? I haven't had cereal in about 6 years, right? There was this one time at my job, I had to pour a bowl of cereal for a client of mine. And when I poured that bowl of cereal, the rush of emotions that of what that cereal meant to me came back. It was like post-acute withdrawal symptoms. Like I was in the thralls of like the memory and like the excitement. And I'm like, oh, I don't like this feeling. But I had to realize I can't label it good or bad. I realized like I accept that that feeling is still there, but I don't have to feed it because I have proof that my values have been aligned to my health. By that time, I had lost over 250 pounds. So what will be the need for me to feed that craving if my values have shown me that I've been on the right course or right path? Um, Ways to help with acceptance is like a guided meditation, closing your eyes and focusing on any sensation of hunger or craving, allowing them to present without judgment and notice how they can change over time. Allowing yourself to know that the thought does fleet, giving yourself time to allow it to fleet. Now, I know some people say that they're overthinkers. Well, it's not necessarily about overthinking the thought and creating, a string of different narratives to feed that thought. It's allowing yourself to sit with the idea of like, what am I feeding it with this thought if I do this? Questioning the reality of what was the necessity of this craving if you so choose to feed it, and questioning, do my values hold higher than this craving? Right. A lot of challenging your inner thought. Principle number 2 is cognitive diffusion, which I like this one because it gives more understanding of putting yourself away from your thoughts. So this is seeing from unhelpful thoughts. Cognitive diffusion is about creating space between yourself and unhelpful thoughts, recognizing them as just thoughts and not facts. All right, a connection of that is challenge the thought like, I'm afraid, I've failed before, I'll fail again. Or I deserve this treat because I've had a bad day. All right. How many times have you said like, oh, because I messed up, I might as well cave in. A strategy, right, to challenge that is use a phrase like, I'm having the thought that, to distance yourself from the thought and observe it without judgment. It's literally you're saying, I'm having this thought. I'm separating my body from the thought and like talking to myself third person versus I'm allowing myself to say my thoughts are who I am. Because your thoughts aren't who you are unless you act on them. Right. If I say, man, I had a bad day, I deserve some ice cream. And then I'm saying, oh, because I deserve this ice cream because I had a bad day, let me act on this versus the element of I'm having this thought that I should have ice cream. And then I have opportunity to challenge because I've created distance. Principle number 3, being present, mindfulness in everyday life. Being present means practicing mindfulness and focusing on the here and now, paying attention to your senses and experiences. The connection could be avoiding mindless eating while watching TV or using your phone, which can lead to overeating and ignoring hunger signals. So I know I've done this before where I've been eating in front of the TV and I haven't necessarily checked in with my body to say, oh, you're full. It's because, and I always say this, it's because the aspect of if I'm doing an active action, right, I won't notice it until it hurts me, right, until it brings pain. And it's very true in the aspect of going to the gym. I know for me, I love walking or doing jogs. I'm now doing biking. The first 5 to 8 minutes on any bike or any walk is painful. You're thinking about your joints, you're thinking about how out of breath you are, you're focusing on all these sensations. So all those sensations, because of the fear or how tired you're coming from it, make you feel like, oh, let me stop. But if I'm only doing this with my hand and I'm engaged with something that I'm watching on TV, or I'm engaged with something that is on my phone, I'm not thinking about what's going in my mouth. I'm just thinking about what has my attention. Now, if I was doing a jog and I see, for instance, the finish line, I'm not going to think about the aches and pains. I'm at the finish line. Why would I think about my aches and pain when I'm almost there? Right. So it's a perception aspect of changing how your mindset looks. Um, an exercise to do with mindful eating is taking small pieces of food and eat it slowly, noticing the texture, taste, and smell. Pay attention to how your body feels as you eat it. So being really in tune with your body. One of the things that I love about my whole weight loss journeys is I've been very mindful about all the sensations in my body. If I eat something and it raises my heart rate, I can feel it. And I know probably should have had this, right? Or if I taken something that is that makes me tired, I'm like, okay, that might have too much sugar in it. It allowed me to realize what sensations I'm feeding and how it is affecting my mood. Principle 4 is self as context, beyond your thoughts and emotions. Self as context means recognizing that you are more than your thoughts, emotions, or identity. You're a whole person with many facets. The connection detached from the identity of the person who always struggled with weight. Hear that again. Detached from the identity of the person who always struggled with weight and embrace the potential to become a healthier and more balanced individual. There's always been a narrative that has been telling us that I've struggled with weight all my life. Like me, I literally have. Actions have shown it. I struggled with weight all my life until I embraced the fact that I was capable of being healthier. I was capable of going on a walk a mile a day. That's when I realized it was not necessarily a struggle of my weight. It was my lack of action to do something about it. The struggle is you sitting with the thought and allowing the thought to become you. The action is I'm doing something about it so I don't have to sit and be overwhelmed with the thought alone.
I think that right
It's
there, what you just said too, is so important because Sometimes, for myself, just taking one tiny step sometimes can just feel so empowering. It makes you feel, it totally changes your mood. It totally changes everything.
Mhm. And then you become like more adapt to understanding like the cause and effect of my actions, my own actions, instead of my own thoughts, right? Because a lot of times we can go through things knowing the pain that it might cause or the temperamental pain of being exhausted or fatigued, but we also know that is benefiting us because if it's aligned to our value of like wanting to be healthier, we can have that sacrifice at that moment versus the idea of like, man, I'm never going to be able to get here because my weight has always been, again, telling ourselves the narrative of what has stopped us, which is a period at the end of it versus a comma of what I'm doing to change that. Uh, the idea of expanding your self identity is focused on your values, passions, and strengths beyond your weight and eating habits. You're a multifaceted individual, right? Kind of what we like going back to what we started talking about before we jumped on the presentation. It's the aspect of you're more than just one thing. You're a multitude of things. Principle 5 is values. Clarifying what matters. Values are what truly matters to you in life, guiding your choices and actions. Connection, identify goals like being more active with your family, reducing health risk, or building self-confidence. Action alignment, choosing nourishing food because you value long-term health rather than seeking short-term comfort. Now, I can give you guys a perfect example of this. This weekend, I had a men's meetup with Bariatric Society, and we were talking about this element of just men and how they struggle with the bariatric community. I had this guy who's very disciplined. I know him all over TikTok, and he's so routine in what he eats on a regular basis, and he's so focused on his value and goal, which I so respect. We had a smorgasbord of food, right? Mind you, there's a bunch of bariatric men there, so not all of us ate all the food, right? But there was salad, there was shrimp, there was chicken. This guy knew clockwise that at 2:30 he was going to his car to get his cottage cheese and he bring it back so he can eat his cottage cheese because he's so determined to stay so consistent because he knows the value of what his consistency has shown him. So no one can change his perspective. All the food in the world, all anything on the table, but yet I'm going to be so disciplined because I care more about the long-term health gain versus the short-term comfort of what this will provide. Principle 6, committed action, taking value-driven steps. Committed action means taking steps that align with your values, even when it's difficult. The connection, stay consistent with portion size, food choice, and exercise routine even during emotional lows or plateaus. The sustaining progress, committed actions is about showing up for yourself, even when it's challenging. It's about honoring your values and striving for your goals. Now, I have a great example of what this looks like. 2 years into my um, weight loss journey, I was in Houston, or I was in Dallas to visit my mother and my sister for Thanksgiving. And we had all this food on the table, you have all the pies, but they knew that I wasn't going to eat much of any of that. And at the same time, we were having laughs and jokes, and there was a moment where my mother started to show signs of a stroke. So my mom's face started to drip. I then panicked. I had to carry my mom downstairs, call the ambulance. My mom forgot my name. Uh, I was rushing through so many different emotions. I left the hospital around like 11:30 because they said, you can't stay here. So I was like, okay. And I had the opportunity to go home and I could have ate anything. There's stuffing on the table, there's ham, turkey, but I didn't go home. I went to the gym. I went to the gym and I got on the treadmill. And when I got on that treadmill, I cried. And people were looking at me like, why are you crying on the treadmill? I said, I'm not doing too good today, but but I had to work through this. I'm not going to let food be my emotional temptation because my value of my health is way stronger than my emotional need to be fed through comfort of food. And after that, that was just like the biggest release. Because I chose to not give food power anymore. I allowed myself to know that I'm stronger than the craving. You know, it's a very tough thing to think about at times because in that moment, I really thought I was going to lose my mom over a stroke. Now, granted, she's back in full health. She's better now. But in that moment, it was the fear of like, if I lost my mom, I needed something to feed that emotion. And it was going to be the food that I had on the table, or it was going to be my actions to feed my own values.
That's a big wake up call whenever you have things like that. And it, even though it's hard, it actually probably is, it's kind of a wake up all around, whenever you start, because it's probably not just that one little thing, but it's over time,
Mhm.
some of the other things that happen in life and you start resorting and you just don't realize. Um, there's quite a few comments too. There's one of them is saying, I'm trying to break free of my mindset of um, like takeouts, fast food, and it's hard to find. I've traded for healthier foods, um, like low calorie sushi because it feels like a reward since it's fancy food. It says it's so hard to break free of these harmful mindsets we've had essentially our whole life. Do you have any suggestions for someone like that?
A suggestion I would have is um, challenge the thought of why food needed to be rewarding. Because what I hear is that I'm still looking for the reward of what food means to me because I've been so consistent or used it as comfort. And then look at other things you've done in your life to provide comfort that have nothing to do with food. And have you truly explored those other things in its full capacity to say that I still need food as my comfort, right? I knew I was an athlete in that aspect because I used to play football and things of that nature, but I never really fully explored my talents as an athlete. So when I started to do my walks and starting to see, oh, well, I can jog 3 miles, right? I challenged and expanded my aspect of what the reward of my health will look like versus the comfort of the reward of what food provided.
And Lovey Shelton has a little saying. She said, a powerful jewel at a recent support group meeting, maybe even this one last month. Will eating this move me closer or further from my goals? And she said it's the latest sticky note on her mirror and fridge door, which is true. Like when you think about that, is that you labeled food as fuel earlier, is it something that's going to fuel my body? How's it going to make me feel? And is it going to, is it going to put me where I want to be? So
Hmm.
it's a great reminder.
For sure, for sure. Any other questions or comments that pop up?
There was one, it's actually regarding your presentation. And we are going to be sharing after this presentation, there's going to be a handout that Ryan's going to be talking about here in a little bit. And we do have that on our website, but people are asking about your slides.
Oh, I can send the slides and I can send that in the group. That's no problem. I have a PDF of the slides. Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. I believe in giving information out so people can read it and learn it and like actually digest it. But I know I'm giving a lot of information out in a very short amount of time.
Wonderful. So guys, we'll email you these slides. There were
All
several
right.
people that asked that same question. So
Gotcha. All right, scenario one, handling a craving. This is just a breaking down of like a hierarchy of how to handle cravings based off the principles that provided value guided action, prepare portion control, healthy alternatives. That's like the element of, okay, like I like ramen, right? I like to eat ramen, but instead of choosing noodles, I use egg. There's these egg noodles that I have. I choose low sodium broth. I then cut up some chicken. I make it a less dense meal versus a heavier meal, which give me the same quality of what I felt, a high calorie meal of ramen would be. It's just made a healthier option. Present moment, notice your breathing and body sensation. Be very mindful of how you're feeling as you're eating foods. Like, do I feel good, or am I just eating and not thinking about how I'm feeling? I'm just thinking about the reward of feeling, knowing that this is going to taste good. Like, taste isn't the only sensation that should come from eating food. Right? We hyper focus on it because, granted, we are eating something that we're trying to decipher. Our tongue's trying to decipher if it's a good taste or a bad taste. But think about it, there's so many other sensations that can come about. There's the idea of I find myself feeling happy while I eat this, or I find myself feeling like out of breath because it's raising my blood pressure and I maybe shouldn't eat so much. It's all about knowing and feeling your body. Cognitive diffusion. I'm having the thought that I need chips right now. Perfect example, right? Saying that I'm having the thought that, allows you to then say, this is the aspect of I'm giving myself distance from my own thoughts and I don't need the chip. Because if I said, I just need a chip right now, I will act on I need that chip right now versus the thought alone.
it
Remember,
can be
thoughts
hard
are.
too, because there's such a pull sometimes when you have a craving. I'm a chips person myself.
Mhm.
But there's such a pull. It's just like, it's that thing, huggy. It's like you give it power, and it has this pull on you that um makes you want it even more. And Jessica says, I always carry a protein bar when I have cravings, and when I get home, I have a sweet tooth. I cut a banana, drizzle keto chocolate chips, and put peanut butter on top. I always have that in my fridge. I'm trying to stay away from the candy. So what would you say about distraction? Like finding either like a different food that has, qualities of that sweetness or saltiness. What would you say about that?
I said that's fine. Like I like chips as well, but now I do pork rinds like instead. Or I liked I used to like chocolate milkshakes. So instead of actually taking ice cream and making a milkshake, I take Greek yogurt. I take a protein shake, and I blend it with a banana. And I'm like, okay, cool. It has some of the same textures. So it reminds me of a shake. It's just being able to be creative. Like I don't think we were been so creative with the foods we've ate. We've more so stuck to what we know that is a good taste. Like how many of you guys have ate food that you know is going to be good and you haven't changed from that? Like you never changed the thought of like I should try something different.
It just becomes a habit. It just becomes a habit. And like Tiffany says, cravings can become a fixation. The Ninja Creamy is a great thing too, because I know with the protein ice cream, that's a great alternative. I know that was mentioned by Amber here.
Hmm.
And there's some questions too coming in. I don't know if we have a moment to take a couple questions.
Yeah, I can take a couple questions.
Okay. This one here is not directly related to this slide, but this person is saying, I'm pre-op, and one of my mental challenges is the fear of becoming too thin? How can I change that mindset?
Okay. When you think about becoming too thin, are you looking at the element of how your health feels? Are you looking at the scale or are you looking at how you physically feel? Because there's a big difference. Like, are you looking at the physical aspect of what you see of yourself, or are you looking at how you're feeling about yourself? Because one of the things is people struggle with the concept of body dysmorphia after weight loss surgery. Because they'll say, I have lost all this weight, but then I have all this loose skin. I have it, right? I have a bunch of loose skin after weight loss. One of the things that I'm looking at is how do I physically feel health wise to kind of counter the element of the fear of becoming or the fear of becoming too small or the fear of my skin still resembling me being a bigger person. Another way you can look at it is you can always sculpture your body how you want it to be. Like going to the gym and going and lifting weights and tone your body into the way that you wanted to see it. It's over time you'll see your body become more creative on finding ways of how it wants to shape and look.
It's interesting too because I really do think our bodies have this set point of where you kind of like it finds its happy point, I guess, and it's really really unusual for somebody to become their BMI to drop below a really healthy point. It's just very uncommon. But I do get that that's a concern. I would definitely say talk to your surgeon about it too and see depending on what kind of procedure you have. And I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into it, what kind of medications you're on, what's your medical history. There's just a lot. The mental aspect of it though is important. So you definitely don't want to ignore that. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
And I know you probably got quite a few. There's just a lot of comments coming in. I know you got more content. Do you want to keep going and then we'll answer some questions here in a little bit, or do you want to answer questions?
Let's see. I'm trying to think about
What you got
the
yet?
the rest of the slides. I think this will be probably my last slide because after that, it's just more so going on the exercises of the values and system. But like this scenario too, dealing with a setback. Because one of the things we do fear is a setback. It's like a relapse. It's a concept of fearing like, oh, I'm going to relapse and keep going again. So I overwhelm myself with the thought. But usually when I overwhelm myself with the thought of relapsing again or going back into unhealthy patterns, um, I'm finding ways to feed the craving of comfort again. So this is a system on how to deal with that. Plan the next meal mindfully rather than letting guilt derail your progress. Is identifying, yes, I might have had something that I shouldn't have, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to have that over the next 30 days, the same thing. Is acknowledging, yes, it wasn't a good meal. Let me go ahead and try something else. Return to your values. Refocus on your why you chose bariatric surgery and your long-term goals. So like being really specific and tailored to the aspect of did what I ate promote the values I have in line? Like some people's values are I want to be able to run around with my kids. Some people's values of I want to be able to be taken off my medication. Am I being counterproductive if I'm not thinking about these values all the time? Right? Because these have to be the core thing that keeps me alive right now. Um, Cognitive diffusion, going back to that, giving yourself space and distance from your thoughts. I'm having a thought I failed, but that doesn't make it true, right? Remember, your thoughts aren't facts. You did not fail, right? I used to tell my clients the statement is of like, you might have slipped, but you haven't fallen, right? Right? You had a slip, but if you allow yourself to say, because I had this slip, I might as well keep slipping. Then you're setting yourself up for failure. A slip and a fall are two different things. A slip is saying I lost my balance. A fall is like I've landed on the ground. I have to get back up. Next part is acceptance, acknowledging feelings of guilt without trying to suppress them. You know, and the reason I like this is because it kind of goes back to what I was first just saying about the idea of like you had made this slip. Now you're overwhelmed with negative thoughts about what you just did. Like, oh man, I just had a milkshake. I know I shouldn't have it. You're overwhelmed with all these thoughts. You're like, oh man, I'm a terrible person. This is gonna derail everything. This is gonna take everything off course. And it's like, okay, cool. You're hyperventilating about how guilty you feel. But my thing is this, does that mean that you should keep feeding that for you to stay feeling guilty? Right? Because then you'll do the Murphy's Law aspect. If one thing happens wrong, everything will happen wrong. It's not the case. You can still steer the course, but it all starts with how you think about it. It's your mindset.
So true. There's several people commenting about their why, like the reason why they had surgery. Betty suggested her surgery facility recommended them make a list, before surgery. Jessica talks about her PCOS and wanting to have kids, and that was her why. So, I mean, those are all super important things because that's what kind of helps you remember. And too, what you were talking about. I think one thing that I heard this last week was a little quote, progress over perfection. A lot of times we get in this perfection mindset that everything has to be a certain way. Our eating has to be a certain way, our weight loss has to be a certain way. And we think that we're failing if we're not meeting every single little goal every day. But, progress over perfection. If you can remember that, just remember that you are making progress in some
Mhm.
ways.
And give yourself acknowledgement of your progress and of your value. Don't ever minimize it. And I really am strong about this aspect because when you start minimizing your success, you'll never realize you were making progress. When you start minimizing the fact of, oh, I was able to do a mile, oh, that's nothing. Then you're gonna not understand when you lost 100 pounds, and you're gonna be like, oh, that was nothing. No, it is. It's a big accomplishment, right? You chose to take action to align to being a better person for yourself, for your health, right? So don't ever say that that is nothing or reduce the value of it because what you're doing is you're making yourself smaller as you reduce the value of how you feel about yourself.
And there's another question here. Do you see a risk using exercise instead of food in stressful situations as a replacing one addiction with another if you reward yourself with exercise instead of food?
So that's a slippery slope at times. I find myself using exercise as a means to help with my cravings and help identifying like what emotion I'm feeding. But never put your exercise to a point where you're trying to exercise 6 times, not 6 times, 6 hours a day. And there's an extreme aspect. If you work out every day, it's not a bad thing. But if it starts making other health ailments, then that's something you need to check with your doctor about. Comparisons of deepest joy. I appreciate everyone in the chat and actually communicating. This is great. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for the presentation. I do have the assignment element that and that itself is just more ways to give you examples of what ACT is and how to use it. So it's a way of knowing all the six principles and different little examples you can think of to how it can relate to yourself. And yes, I'll be able to give you guys the slides as well.
And we can send that out in the email. I also want to just share, we did put those on our website, so I'll show everybody how to get a hold of those. And I also just want to say, is it okay if I share with them too some ways to get a hold of you? Do
Yeah.
you want to share first? And then I can put some things in the comment box, and I have some things pulled up too to show them visually too as well.
Okay. So I have many different avenues. One is I am a licensed therapist in the state of Texas and Illinois. Um, so if anybody is looking for therapy or individual therapy, I do provide that. You can just look up my name, Corby Jackson, on Psychology Today and find me. I also have a website called Reflexive Truths. Uh, and that website, I can put it in the chat, is my website for my private practice. Also am on BariMale Experience as one of their guests, and we talk to men every Tuesday about their struggles, either mental health or their vulnerabilities they want to share. I'm also on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook as Fade Away Ryan. What else? And if you go to my Instagram page, you'll see a link tree, which you can go click on if you want to have sessions, if you want to check out my website, if you want to check out any magazine journals I have, or any YouTubes that I've done.
Okay. Um, reflex. Okay, I'm gonna copy to your website too, or your website there too. So I'm gonna pull up and our the ProCare website so I can show them where they can find your handout for today so that they can do some exercises on the side if they'd like to try that. And
Yes.
then I will also show them some of the other places that you've shared with us. So I'm going to share my screen here in just a second. I want to make sure I had so many things pulled up, make sure some of that stuff is downsized here. So share away here. Um, it never pulls up exactly where I want it. Okay, here we go. Here's the ProCare website. Um, if you go over here to the box that says Body and Soul Resources on procarenow.com. So I'll copy that, procarenow.com. And when you go over, I'll put that in the chat box. Chat. Um, when you get over to the box that says Body and Soul, when you click there, what's under that box, you're going to see support group handouts. And when you click on that, I actually have it pulled up already. I'll just go there. Towards the bottom of the page is all of our guest speaker presentations. And I have it right here. Whoops. It's under guest speaker presentations. Yours is the first one here, mindful eating and mental flexibility, ACT eating patterns. And I actually have that pulled up. Is there anything you wanted to say about this? There's several assignments on it. It's 4 pages.
Yeah, it's so each assignment is just looking at different elements of just how you can process eating in different ways. So it's literally going through ACT and doing the same thing I did with the first scenario and the second scenario of those last 2 slides. So
So
taking small
assignment,
bites.
okay, so assignment 1 is mindful eating exercise. Assignment 2 is values driven food choices.
Yes.
3 is challenging food related thoughts. And assignment, there's 3. So I thought there was 4, but we got 4 pages.
Yeah.
So that is an exercise if you'd like to just kind of read over later, guys, and we'll be sending that out by email too, along with the slides. When you registered, you'd registered under an email. And I've had several people asking too about registration for this event. So when you guys register, we actually get your name, your facility that you're working with, and if you agreed for me to share that with your facility, I do have a list of about 70 facilities that I share attendance with, because some facilities use this to help with pre-op regulations. Like some people have to have so many attendants to so many support groups before they have surgery, or maybe it's an insurance thing. But I assure you, I will be sending that attendance out. I usually do it about a week post the event, so probably around next Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I send them to all of the facilities that I have attendance to. So check with them at that point. If you have any questions, though, my last name, my email is my last name, Hain, and then my first initial B at procarenow.com. So you're always welcome to email me as well. We also have Ryan, we also have your Instagram, which is Fadeaway Ryan. I pulled that up so that people could kind of just see Fadeaway Ryan, and then also the BariMale Experience. It's all one word. Have that on Instagram, and then also on YouTube. You have a YouTube channel as well where you have all of these fun events that you've done with these other gentlemen that you're um, friends with, Tony and Rab, and
Mhm.
all kinds of great conversations. Let's see. So at this point too, I just want to say we have the support group handout. We have different ways that you can touch base with Ryan if you'd like to do that, and then so Instagram, and on Ryan's Instagram, he mentioned his link tree where you could reach out to him about a one-on-one consult, and that would be under this, correct, Ryan?
Yes.
Okay, so we got all of that. And then I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, which is ProCare Health. So when we go back here to the ProCare website, I'm going to click on to that. These little pop-ups come up for a year's free of supply of free vitamins. So make sure and check that out when you get there. One of our biggest sales going on right now is Boost Your Routine, which is a buy one, get one 40% off using code defense, or yes, defense, DEFENSE. That goes through January 31st. And when you press the shop now button, it's going to show you which products is buy one, get one half off. So we have zinc citrate, we have probiotics, we have vitamin D3, and we have Mag D. So that's a fun little special that's going on now. I also want to say Ryan does have a discount code, which I'm going to share with you guys, where you can get 10% off, including these other discounts. So you not only get the discounts here on this, but when you get ready, I think it'll let you use two discount codes. I think defense and um, Ryan's code. You can see which one works better, but nonetheless, it will also be one of those codes you can continue to use. His code does not expire. The defense code does expire. So I'm going to go ahead, downsize this. I'm going to stop sharing for just a hot second so that I can share that information with you here too as well. So it is code Ryan. That is easy to remember.
Yes.
So when you get to the checkout is when you put the codes in for your savings. Okay, and questions, anybody? Now we can, there's so many nice comments. Thank you guys all for everything that you're saying.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate it. I enjoy doing this, guys.
Looks like I have one more question. Yes, somebody's asking, Cheryl asks, can I use my email for slides? Yes, we're gonna email them. Guys, I am actually gonna be away from the office tomorrow because I have a funeral that I'm attending. It's a my sister's husband's mom, my brother-in-law, his mom passed away, and we're having to travel out of town for that. So I will be out of the office. So be aware it might be a day or two before I get those slides to you, but I'll be touching base with Ryan to make sure everything I have is okay to send. But we should have all of that. We'll get it taken care of.
Okay.
Any closing thoughts?
I think one of the closing thoughts I want to share with people is uh your mind may be your greatest strength, but your action to do something with your body will allow you to provide the ability to be aligned to your values. You matter more than the element of what makes you comfortable. Just always put forth your values and how you feel about them.
So putting forth your values in life to lead your days, like what is your value each day, and being able to set that up front, put it on a piece of paper, find yourself daily of what that
Yeah.
is, because those values do mean a lot. And to me, it comes down to your why too, why you're doing this,
Hmm.
because you love yourself. Deep down, we
All
all
right.
love ourselves and we want to do what's best for ourselves. And when you're doing something good for yourself, you're also showing other people that they can do the same thing, which is amazing. So
Yes.
thank each of you guys for showing up for yourselves today. We appreciate you. And feel free to reach out to either one of us. And you always have so much wonderful knowledge to share. So thank you so much for being here with us. And
Oh, no problem. I appreciate everyone, and I definitely appreciate you guys showing up for yourself and showing up to this event.
yeah, everybody have a great evening. Enjoy, and we'll catch you at our next event. Stay very connected. Thank you guys.
All
Bye,
right, take care.
everybody.